Hello everyone, my name is Julia. I'm a certified Montessori teacher and I'm also a mum to a 1-year-old and a stepmom to an 8-year-old. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of our favorite books and our most successful books from 6 months to 12 months. I watched a ton of videos on book recommendations, Montessori book recommendations for babies up to 12 months. And a lot of what I will be suggesting today do come from watching those videos. And in choosing to invest in some of those recommendations, it has paid off really, really well. But again, just bear in mind that these are Isaac's favorites and these are selections from what we've been gifted since he was born, what I've taken from a library, and what I have invested. So keeping that in mind, I have split out my collection into 3 categories, sort of more picture books, some of the classics, and books that I've been reading to Isaac since he was born, and touch and feel. At around the 6-month mark, I'd say is when my little guy started becoming much more aware of stories, and there were pages that he could flip and he could recognize which ones were his favorites. So that's why I'm grouping the 6 to 12 months together, although many of the books I mentioned today he has had since birth and continues to enjoy. These are just the ones that I noticed he pays special attention to. If you follow the Montessori method, then you will perhaps already know that Maria Montessori advised against anything fantastical being introduced to kids before the age of 7. So what this means is that any sort of story or imagery or fairy tale that is not grounded in absolute reality. Okay, keeping that in mind, I happily admit that I do not follow this prescription very exactly. There are just too many modern classics that are so engaging for children, despite featuring animals or fantastic creatures in them. And also, the mere selection of baby and toddler books today is incredibly diverse and far removed from the inventory that existed in Maria Montessori's day. Okay, so our first category is the touch and feel books, which are a continuous favorite with Isaac. This one is a part of a series of 4, and this one is just at the zoo. Also, the That's Not My series has been an extremely successful touch and feel book. This baby touch and feel series is also fantastic. I would recommend any one of the books found within here. And I found this touch and feel book from just a random grocery store of all places, and it's quite neat. It's got, different textures on it, and at the end it has a little mirror, so Isaac actually will try and kiss himself all the time. It's super cute. The second bunch of books are all books that I've basically been reading to my toddler from day 1, and so I think just from the repetition of them, they have since become his favorite books, but most of them I think are fairly well-known classics. We've got The Gruffalo, The Very Cranky Bear, and there's also a few more in the series that we also have. We have The Very Hungry Bear and The Very Noisy Bear. Are You My Mother was one of my favorite books as a kid, actually. My grandmother used to read it to me, and she has the sweetest English accent, and so I just hear the echo of her voice every time I read this to Isaac, but he also loves it as well. This is a First Nations inspired book, and it's got beautiful illustrations, and it was a gift when Isaac was born, and he loves it. He is fascinated by, I think, the very stark color contrast and also the strong shapes that are in there. The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Again, this would not be considered a Montessori style book, but it's just such a classic and it's so good. Goodnight Moon is a fantastic book, I think from day one, because it has the black and white pictures alternating with the color pictures. It's just, again, it's a classic. And any of the Bill Martin Baby Bear, or Brown Bear, all of them are absolutely phenomenal. I also found this book in our local teacher's store, and it's amazing and hilarious. Quantum Physics for Babies. And it's really simple. You know, this is a ball, this ball has zero energy, and at the end, you become a quantum physicist. So this has also surprisingly been a favorite. And finally, I was gifted very generously by a friend for Isaac's first birthday just now, a collection of stories by Robert Munsch. He's a very famous Canadian children's author, and if you are Canadian, you probably grew up with some of his stories, The Paper Bag Princess being a famous one, Mortimer, and so I have started reading stories from here just while Isaac's been playing, and I'm so excited to continue reading these with him and to him when he doesn't want to rip the pages. But I would also recommend any Robert Munsch, also Dr. Seuss, although not Montessori in the slightest. The color of the pictures is very appealing for kids, and the sequence of the rhyme is also very appealing for kids. These are now books that my toddler will tend to choose on his own and goes back to again and again and again. So I did mention that a lot of the touch and feel he likes to explore on his own. These are more picture books, and towards the 12-month mark, you might notice that your baby is becoming more interested in looking at pictures of real life things. And so there are some books that if you invest in, you'll find that at some point your toddler will be extremely interested in them. So we have First Words, and it's just super simple. We also have a French version, Mes 100 premiers mots, for him to look at in French, although again they do have those paper pages, so I tend to be with him when he's choosing this book. A book about colors, but again my toddler just enjoys looking mostly at, you know, the pictures. This is one of his two favorite books. It's a book about farm animals, and he loves farm animals, like is obsessed with them. I've actually ordered 2 more books just about animals, so those should be coming in a couple weeks, and I'm super excited for him to get those because he literally looks at this book every day, and he looks at this book sometimes for an hour. His second favorite book is the part of the 100 First series, so 100 First Animals is this one. But there's 100 First Words, and there's 100 First Trucks. There's a whole bunch of things. So those have been some of my toddler's favorite books, from the type of book, whether it's touch and feel, to a picture book, a real life picture book, or just the story in itself from being read to continuously, from 6 to 12 months. I will be sharing in the future some of my stepson's favorite books, so from around 6 to 8 years. So stay tuned for that at some point, and in the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.